The following interview was conducted at Feldheim Writers Retreat in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. We'll be doing that Writers Retreat again this year, October 14th through 18th. So the details on that will be in the description below, and mark your calendars. You won't want to miss out on this. Now, I'll be doing some of these interviews throughout the year as well, but most of those will be over Zoom. A few of them will be in-person interviews, but there's nothing quite like sitting down in a beautiful venue, in a beautiful location, and talking face-to-face with a writer. So with that, enjoy this interview with sci-fi writer Jim Lambert.
Oh, no, I meant to interrogate him. No, we do not need a brighter light. We don't need a brighter light. Oh, no, it makes not in this particular case. So, Jim.
Yes?
You have been writing for years, and we have known each other for years. Oh, my goodness, what is going on over here? There's lighting happening.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay.
Give me that uplight.
Beautiful. So you have been writing for years.
Yeah.
I've known you for a long time. You've been writing for years. How many years have you been writing?
I did my first NaNoWriMo in 2011.
In 2011. Okay. So why did you start writing in the first place?
I saw a flyer in 2009 that said, hey, November is National Novel Writing Month. Oh, that sounds like an interesting thing. I read a lot. I could probably write. I've written a couple of short stories. Okay, I'll do that. When's it start? 2 weeks ago. Okay, maybe next year. Next year it was like a week and a half I wait. Okay. 2011, it was 3 days into November. I type fast. I can catch up. So then I thought, okay, so what am I going to write about? And I happened to have been reading a bunch of steampunk stories at that point. So I'll write a steampunk story. About what? They want to go to the moon. Okay. So yeah, that's the story I started. About 2 weeks in, I decided I kind of needed to know where the story was going because I was not sure. I learned all this on the fly. It was interesting.
So the reason you originally started then was just the Nano Challenge.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I can do this.
And I had read a lot for a long time. And I thought a bunch of these authors were really cool. Mm-hmm. I was, big fans of Isaac Asimov, Heinlein, Bradbury, Clark, all these people, and other ones that are less, golden age. And I thought, it would be really cool to have a way to interact with those on a more level basis. I could go and see Isaac Asimov. Well, I couldn't because, he'd already died by then. And and talk to him and say, hey, I'm a writer. I've got so many books out. I really appreciate your books. I was reading them since I was a kid. And, you were one of the people who kind of inspired me to write because, you guys tell these great stories. Maybe I could tell a story. I write like grammar and getting sentences down pretty well, so I can do this. It's just a bunch of sentences all put together. And
oh yeah, so simple.
Yeah, hey, all the words are already created. You have no work to do.
Well, there's almost no work to do. Yes, that's right.
But yeah, then I learned, how do you figure out the story? And it was great. It was a great eye opener to see how easy it looked to read a finished story versus how hard it is to come up with an idea, a plot, a theme, and everything for a story you're going to complete. So strange how you look at, let's see, what's a foundation? how that's broken into the first book's broken into those sections, and each one they're taking on this challenge, and it's all based on this historical. It's like, okay, how would I come up with something like that? And I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm working on it.
So it was partly the challenge. It was partially also just wanting to be a peer with some of these people,
and kind of pay it forward. I always liked that they were saying, "I'm paying it forward. I'm doing classes, or I'm teaching people, or I'm bringing new authors up," and that seemed like another valuable thing, helping other people, or just giving them stories to read.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. So you wrote several novels in Nano. How many did you complete in your Nano journey? Four that you completed. Okay.
Guess how many books I've published?
You don't get to jump ahead of the questions. Actually, in some ways, okay. So we'll get to that. You published 4 books,
right?
And they are 4 books that you completed in NaNoWriMo challenges.
That I started in NaNoWriMo challenges and finish.
Completed later.
Yeah, I think 2 I completed during Nano.
Gotcha. At least the first draft.
Yeah.
Okay. How long did the second draft of those take?
Oh, I don't know. A couple of years.
A couple of years apiece. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. I don't track things by draft. I'm very bad about that. I go in and start hacking at stuff and then get lost in the weeds and then come back to it later again. And I just don't know when I finished a second draft.
It's not a full drafting process necessarily.
No.
It's a little less surgical than that. Yeah. So you had these novels completed from Nano.
Yeah.
Why, not when, but why did you decide to publish?
I had them. They were done. They were, as done as an early draft before an editor. And what good are they doing sitting on my computer? It's possible I could make some money by selling them. That would be cool. I'd have a book with my name on it. That would be cool. And I could start hanging out with other writers of my peer level, people who are getting started, or, people like you who are further down the track, but that I know pretty well and, can use as mentor figures. And it's like, okay, I can get involved here. And I hadn't done the rest of it. I studied a lot about craft of writing. And that's really still very important to me. That's the only thing I feel somewhat confident in, is the craft. Well, there's a lot after the craft, and I hadn't done it. So I did. I said, let's get going and let's do it. Now, I did have you and another friend of ours really push, hey, let's all do a mass release, all 3 of us. It'll be ours and hers first novel, right, and your 30th. And
I don't know if it was 30 by then, but it was something. It was a number.
And I said, that's great. Let's do it. All right. I can be ready in like 3 months. So a year and a half later.
Yes, I remember this. Yes.
Yeah, I kept putting it off because nobody else was ready. We had the same problem with our group endeavor of short story writing in a single universe. She wrote one, but never quite finished it. I wrote 5 that needed work, but one of them needed so much work that I've scrapped it twice. But they were mostly done. And you wrote 1 or 2 or 3.
I've got 3 so far.
Yeah. And the only problem was I hadn't finished one of mine before you 2 were ready to publish. It got really confused.
Yeah, the group thing can get a little bit complicated when it comes to publishing. And publishing on your own now, obviously you chose to self-publish
Yeah,
as opposed to going the traditional route.
very much.
Was that a part of control or part of timing, or what were the parts of that decision?
Okay, the major function of that decision was I am impatient. I did not, I found out what the alternatives were. You can send out samples and stuff and talk to editors and get them to review it. And in 6 months, they'll get back to you and say yay or nay. And then you send it out to another and another. And if they accept it, after however many tries at 6 months a pop, they accept it, and it's another 6 months in editing. And then they put you on the schedule a year and a half out. I wasn't going to cope with that very well. I would lose all interest, and it would just, I hope my editor did a good job.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm done. And that might have worked out. I mean, I might have functioned better under that. As I said before, I don't have confidence in my release, my editing, my proofing, my cover, all of the stuff after finishing a final draft, final-ish. On the other hand, self-publishing, I could do in a couple of weeks at minimum. And the only constraints on the time were how much money I was willing to spend, how fast, and how fast the people I was working with would get back to me with their work on it. How fast my cover designer was finished, how fast my editor was done, how fast my proofreader was done, how fast the formatting was done. And those were very small time frames for the most part, and money could change them and make them even shorter. Not that I had any money. But I could do it and be published in 3 months pretty easily and have a book in my hand. And that appealed to me a lot more than 3 years.
Right. How about did the control of the cover and things like that, was that also an influence, or?
Not really. I had ideas for some of my covers, but I talked to my cover designer, who is now retired, unfortunately, and I told her my ideas, and she gave me something, and it was always glorious and wonderful. I take that back. The first one on Aether Powered, we went back and forth several times because I wanted a different kind of trunk on the cover. When she sent me one, the stickers on the cover for where he traveled weren't bright enough to see, stuff like that. And that one I ended up being a little picky on. The others were really quick. The last one was 3 tries. The first one, she sent me back the wrong cover entirely. I told her I want a pirate ship in space being attacked by space fighters. She put a sailing ship in space. And this is glorious. This is wonderful. I need to write a story for this. But I meant a ship that is committing piracy, a spaceship. So she replaced that. My next thing was the explosions from the original. The hull of the original ship was farther out, and the explosions were happening out here, and the new one was out here, and they were still happening here. And I said, wait, force field, shields. Boom, she put in an implication of shields, and we were done.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so fast. The other 2 were somewhere in between there. But yeah, it was easy, but it was not, I didn't have a lot of control over it, I felt, because I don't know anything about graphic design. Well, I do. I know a little about graphic design. I don't know much about art. I knew if I liked it, and I didn't know if that mattered.
Right. Which is a hard thing for authors to know.
Yeah.
At times.
So, I liked it. Is it going to sell? I don't know. I'm asking the graphic designer, and she says, "Yeah, it'll be all right. Yeah, this fits." Okay. And I got lots of compliments on the art, so that's good. But no, I didn't feel like I needed that kind of control because I didn't know what to do with that kind of control.
Right.
It'd be like putting me in an airliner seat up in the cockpit and saying, "Here, fly the plane." Are you kidding me?
Exactly. But fortunately, you had people around you that knew what they were doing and
Yeah.
got you a good product and things like that. Now, we're going to switch gears a little bit because so you've started several other novels.
I think I've got 3 that are started and gone a ways, like a significant amount, more than 10,000 words, let's say. And then 1 that is started and I have a plot and I've gotten really good reactions from just the title and the synopsis, but I ran into some serious problems with it early on. So I haven't gotten much written on that.
Gotcha. So what is the struggle that you have in continuing writing those stories?
It's different for each one. The one that I only have a little bit done, but I have a plot, I kind of lost connection with the character. It was based on somebody I knew from online. And I stopped talking. And I kind of lost the steam for that. It just, I was just thinking about that today, that maybe what I need is to rebase it on somebody else somehow,
Right.
or make it more independent or something like
More
that.
imaginary, perhaps.
Yeah, and take it from there. I mean, the plot is kind of written around a certain kind of person. In this case, it's a female cop stereotype of hard-nosed and not going to take anything from anybody, because if you do, they will walk all over you. That kind of
Right.
that kind of an attitude. And the plot really depends on that being part of the attitude.
Right.
So I need to figure out.
Need to keep those attributes, but
Right.
transition it some other way.
One of the others, I ran into a plot problem. I lost the ending. I couldn't figure out how to get. I realized over time that I didn't have a strong ending. I didn't know what was going to happen at the end. The good guys were going to triumph. I didn't know who the bad guys were.
Gotcha. So is that an issue of that you're very much a plotter and need to know that ending before you can complete the writing process?
Yeah,
That's a part of it for you.
I don't pants well. I don't discovery write well for plot. Now, for an individual scene, sure, here's what's going to happen, and then I write it. Okay, that is creative, but it's not really discovery writing.
Right.
I am
That's
not.
on a much smaller level.
Yeah, I'm not wandering into the dark. And when I do, I just get lost.
You
And
just wonder.
yeah, it's just not happening. That was Muse. What was, and this other one, I've had this strange discovery not too long ago. I was watching videos online, and I came across the ADHD song, which is the tune of that Animaniacs used for the Nations of the World. And I was watching it, and the guy had all this Aztec-y, Day of the Dead kind of makeup on, and was very expressive, and he was lip-syncing it, but it was fascinating to watch. It was really funny. I was laughing, and I got to the end and went, I have a bunch of those symptoms. So I listened to it a couple more times going, you know, I could have ADHD.
Yeah.
Which would explain a lot about why I would lose interest in something, why I would hyper-focus on a thing and learn a bunch about it. And then, yeah, it would explain a lot. And I think that's all that happened with the last one. I like the last one. It's the one I'm working on this weekend. It's cool. I have a pretty good plot for the whole thing. I'm not quite sure how the ending works exactly, but I know what's going on.
The ending's going to happen. Yeah.
But I wasn't writing it.
Gotcha. Well, that's one thing that I know that you've struggled with is setting aside time to write and actually doing the writing part of it. Even though you have the ideas, the actual act of taking those ideas and putting them into the computer, whatever that may be, has been a challenge. Why do you think, is it just partly the ADHD and a lack of focus? Or is it time away from a project and then you have struggled to get back into it, like, you know, that type of thing? Or what's the struggle for you?
I could probably link all of them back to ADHD symptoms, but that doesn't narrow it down much.
Yeah.
There are a ton of symptoms. There are a ton of characteristics that you would have. Procrastination is one. One reason that I got so much done in NaNoWriMo was the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
But after making the deadline 4 different times, out of my first 5, I kind of lost the pressure aspect of it. The deadline pressure wasn't there. The deadline still was, but I wasn't recognizing it as a problem. Maybe that's because I finished some of them afterwards. I would write up to the date, get 50,000 words or a little more, and then stop and take a couple of weeks off to recuperate and then go back to it whenever. And so I knew that was a possibility. There's also been recently, the last 4 years, 5 years, there's been a November event that's a week plus a day travel time on each end. 7 days out of a month is a big chunk for writing time, and I could not focus enough to write there. I think I wrote for half an hour the first year. In 7 days. Just wasn't happening.
Well, and I've done Nano during that event, and it is extremely challenging. Do you think that deadlines are a part of the problem? Like, do you respond better to self-imposed deadlines, somebody else-imposed deadlines, or are deadlines like they are to Douglas Adams? You love the whooshing sound they make as they fly by. How does that work for you?
I hate the whooshing sound as they fly by, but but they do. They make that sound. I don't think I respond well to self-imposed deadlines. I come up with it so I can come up with a good reason that I can extend it.
Right.
You know, I'm just as smart as I am.
So Nano was a outside imposed deadline that was pretty firm.
Yeah.
At least for the 50,000 words, except that there's no authority, there's no real punishment if you don't make it.
Yeah, but I bought into it. So that was enough at the time. But I don't really like outside imposed deadlines.
So you don't like self-imposed deadlines, you don't like outside imposed deadlines.
I don't adhere to self-imposed deadlines, and I don't like outside imposed deadlines.
That creates a dilemma, doesn't it?
It does.
And that could be related to, like, perhaps why you don't finish, why you struggle to finish them.
Yeah.
It's because there's no deadline, there's no punishment for not finishing them, other than that you just don't finish them.
Yeah. They're still sitting out there. People ask me about them. Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
But it's what I need to do is buy into the ancient writer's mantra and write every day or write on a schedule or just fit it into where every day I can sit down and go, oh yeah, I need to write for an hour or two today. And ADHD does not help with that.
No, it does not.
Not even a bit.
So is your motive the same for writing as it was when you started?
Yeah, I'd like to get the stories done and out there. It's been kind of nice having other people read them. And that's kind of added to it. It's like, oh, I'm like an author now. I've got books and people read them. And some of them review them online. I have a review from Phil Folio on my steampunk book. Phil Folio writes Girl Genius. Look it up online. It's amazing, and he's been writing it since the 80s. It's art. It's webcomic now.
Webcomic, yeah.
Yeah, it was comics, actual physical comic books at the beginning. And it's very steampunk, and it's glorious. It's wonderful. And I ran into him at a convention and handed him my book and said, hey, I think you might like this. And he did. He gave me a really good star, but said, well, it's not actually steampunk, but it is kind of a Victorian fantasy. So, it's fine. And he's right. I did not go into some of the tropes of steampunk.
Right.
But it was a weird story for me. It's going to the moon in 1894. And when I sat down and said, how do I write this? How is this structured? Well, I hadn't learned story structure at that point. So I was a project manager at the time. Going to the moon is a project. And that's how I designed it. It's building this part, doing designs, doing planning, doing building, doing testing, and then the actual flight. And it worked well in that structure for me to get it done. And it stayed in that structure for the book itself. Was a little loosey-goosey at times. Testing also became espionage and counter-espionage, but,
Throw a little of that in there. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but I liked having the books out there and being able to hand somebody my business card and said, yeah, I'm an author. I wrote 5 books.
Yeah.
In 13 months.
Exactly.
Like I said, published
13
5
years.
books in 13 months.
13 years of preparation, published books in 5 months. So what's next for you? Are you going to project manage these books into existence?
No.
Or no, that's not going to happen.
I quit project management after 6 years because I don't like managing people.
Gotcha.
I don't like...
Including yourself, apparently.
Apparently.
Yeah. Okay.
One thing that I used to like is that if I was just in charge, if I was just me, I was the one responsible for getting the work done, and it was all about me. When you're managing people, you're making sure they get the work that you're responsible for done. I hate it. Hate it. That's terrible.
Yeah,
I should have never done that.
I don't blame you. That's absolutely awful.
I was okay at it. Not good. Okay. I learned the basic mantras of good project management, like pass down the credit and take the blame. If something went wrong, it was my fault. If something went well, I told them who did really well on the team. But I didn't like doing it, so I went and got a job where I was a solo contributor, and now I've got another one after that where I'm a solo contributor. I'm part of a team, but I'm not in charge of the team. But no, I tried setting up a list of stages and things to get done, and it's still on my computer.
Gotcha.
And I haven't. One of the things on my list of things to do is to check off the things I do on the to-do list. I don't do that.
Gotcha.
It's that bad.
Oh, man.
But what I'm going to do next, what I've been planning on for like the last year and a half, is to take a step back and do some success, get some successes. I did theater for community theater for 20 years, time off for good behavior. I can do voice stuff. So, gee, I've been told I have a radio voice, this and that. I could do audiobooks, and I could do all of mine. So I said, all right, I'm going to look into that. I bought the equipment. I set it all up. I made a space. I did all the prep work and stuff, and I recorded one of my short stories. And then I lost a tooth. And that changes the shape of your mouth, and I had a great lisp for a year. But now things are better, for the last 2 months. So I want to get back to that. I need to re-record 2 of the voices. I made the female voices wrong. My thought was I'd do that, and then that would inspire me to finish the rest of the short stories in that big set, those 5, get those all done, finished, record those. Those are all small projects. I could get 5 small projects done and learn all the ins and outs of doing an audiobook with that, and then record my novels.
There you go.
And have those out. And by that time, I'm so enthused about having another thing out that I'll go write something else to have the whole experience again.
Because you have the successes behind you.
Yeah. It's kind of like my organizational technique. If you get stuck enough, do anything. Any task that you complete gives you a little momentum to complete the next one. And you can get started again that way. I have gotten older since I came up with that theory. And slower, and yeah.
But still, motion is motion.
Motion is motion. I mean, even if I don't get my momentum back, I'll have made some progress. I mean,
Right.
I've recorded a 45-minute, 55-minute, something like that, short story with 2 bad voices, but
There's still progress.
it's done. It's there. I even pseudo-mastered it. I have a real recording engineer who will master it for me and charge me money.
Yeah, there you go.
But she will tell me what she did so that I can go back and
So you can
repeat
go back and learn that process. Well, that sounds excellent, and it sounds great. And we hope to be hearing from you more soon, hearing from you quite literally with audiobooks, and hoping that inspires you to write more. And thanks for joining us at this retreat, Jim. I hope you get a lot done the rest of the weekend.
Hey, I've got more done than I've gotten done in the last 2 years. I mean, literally in 2 years, I've written more today.
That's progress.
Yes.
That's progress.
I hope that this interview was inspirational to you because we talked to a regular writer, one who's still struggling, doesn't have a career yet, and is not someone who's super famous and just telling you how to get to 6 figures, but somebody who's sharing with you the struggles of the everyday writing life and maybe some of the things that you face too. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Check out my website at theplotabides.com. There's all kinds of free training and resources there, along with ways that you can work with me and times when you can see me throughout the year. The information on the Feldheim Writers Retreat is also in the description below, along with a link to our website. We'd love to see you in Tahoe in October, and maybe that would be the thing that gets you writing again. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the next interview.